Hello gals and ghouls. So for today's video I'm going to be showing you how I created this low sew pumpkin turtle, and he is perfect for markets. Alright, so starting off with the flippers, we are going to make our magic ring, and we are just going to do a 6 single crochet into our magic ring. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. So now we're just going to pull to close our ring. Starting in this next round, we are just going to increase in every single stitch around, and at the end of this row you should have 12 single crochet. Alright, so starting round 3, we are just going to do single crochet increase in each stitch around. So we're going to do 1 single crochet, and in the next stitch we are just going to do an increase. And we're just going to repeat that all the way until we reach our stitch marker. And at the end of this row you should have 18 stitches. Alright, so now I'm just going to trim the tail because we're going to have the tail end sandwiched in the flipper inside. So I'm just going to fold mine in half, and then I'm going to insert my hook into both sides. So we're going to insert it into one side, and as you can see, once we fold it in half we have 2 different sides. So we're going to insert our hook into both. That way we'll close up the flipper and it will make it nice and curved. So here we're going to do 1 single crochet, and I like to kind of pull it a little bit tighter just when it's on the ends. So we're just going to work our way down with single crochet. So we have the 1, and then we're going to do 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I like to do 9, and there's really not a stitch at the end, so I kind of just find whatever loop is closest to the end and I just wiggle my hook in there. So as you can see, it's kind of a little bit tricky to see, is almost below where a stitch should be. So I just kind of stick my hook in there and I single crochet and I kind of pull it tight just because it's on the end. And then I'm just going to chain 1, and I'm going to leave a little bit of the tail because we are going to weave in the ends. So I just do that, and then after that you're going to weave in the ends, and you're going to make 4 of these. Alright, so these are my 4 flippers done. I just went ahead and weaved in the ends, and this is what they're looking like. So we're going to set those off to the side for now, and we are going to start working on our turtle head. So again, we're going to start off with a magic ring, but instead of 6 single crochet this time we are actually going to do 8 single crochet into our magic ring. So here we have 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now we're just going to pull on our tail to close up our ring, and I just kind of pull mine a little bit tight. Alright, so starting on our next row, we're just going to increase in every stitch around until we reach our stitch marker. And at the end of this row, you should have 16 single crochet. Alright, so starting our next round, which is round 3, we are going to do a single crochet, and in the next stitch we are going to increase, and we are just going to repeat that all the way around until we reach our stitch marker. Alright, so now we're going to single crochet all the way around, and we're going to do that for 3 rows, and I'll meet you back when I'm done. Again, just all the way around for 3 rows. Alright, so this is what our turtle head should be looking like now, and I'm just going to place my safety eyes in between rows 3 and 4, so counting from the middle, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we're just going to place our safety eyes and click them into place. And I just like to make sure that they're even, just make sure that one is not a little bit higher than the other, and then just add in the other eye. So now we're going to start working on our decreases. So we are going to do a single crochet and then a decrease, and we're going to repeat that all the way around again until we reach our stitch marker. And at the end of this row we should have 16 single crochet. Alright, so now I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of stuffing just to give him some shape, because we are going to decrease again and it might be a little bit tough to kind of add some of that stuffing in. So now for our next row we are going to decrease in every single stitch around, and at the end of this row we should have 8 single crochet. Alright, now we're just going to finish off by doing a slip stitch into the next stitch, chaining 1, and then just cutting off. I like to leave a little bit of a tail. So now I'm just going to add a little bit more stuffing because I feel like he's not as firm or have the shape that I kind of want. So I'm just going to go ahead and add more stuffing and kind of mess around with him until he is what I like. Alright, now we are moving on to the shell, and again we're going to start off with our magic ring, and into our magic ring we are going to do 8 single crochet. So we're just going to start off with our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Alright, just pulling the tail tight. In this next row, we are going to increase in every single stitch around until we reach our stitch marker. And at the end of this row, we should have 16 single crochet. Alright, once you're done with that row, we are going to do a single crochet and then an increase. And we're just going to repeat that all the way around until we reach our stitch marker. And at the end of this row, you should have 24 single crochet. Alright, so I've completed that, and going into our next row, we are going to do 2 single crochet and then an increase, and we're going to repeat that all around. So again, we're going to do 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and then an increase in the last stitch. And we are just going to repeat that all the way around until we reach our stitch marker, and I will meet you back once I have completed this row. Alright, so now we're going to be working downwards. So we are going to single crochet in every stitch around, and we are going to do that for the next 6 rows. And I will meet you back once I have completed those 6 rows of single crocheting in each stitch around. So here we are. We have our 6 rows completed, and this is what the shell should be looking like. So I'm just going to add my stitch marker. Alright, so now we are going to start working on attaching our flippers and head. So we're going to start off with 1 single crochet, and then we are going to grab a flipper, and we are going to make it to where the curved edge of the flipper is facing to the left side, and we're going to insert our hook into the very first top stitch of the flipper. So once we insert it into the flipper, then we are going to insert it into the body of the shell to connect it. So again, just inserting it into both, and then we're going to do a single crochet, and we're going to do that once again, so into the flipper and into the body with a single crochet, and once more into both of those and do a single crochet. So we should have 3 single crochet for those. So next we are just going to do 5 single crochet in the shell by itself. So we have the 1, here's 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're going to grab our next flipper, and we are going to do this one a little bit different. So we want both of them to be facing each other. The curved edges, as you can see, the curved edges are facing towards each other. So we're going to count from the top, 1, 2, and 3, and we are actually going to go into that 3rd stitch of the flipper. So again, 1, 2, and 3. We're going to insert our hook into the 3rd stitch of the flipper, and then we're going to insert into our shell, and we're going to do 1, 2, again into the shell and the flipper, and then 3. So that's connected with 3. So now we're going to do 2 single crochet in the shell by itself, and now we're going to work on attaching our head. So I kind of just squish it a little bit, just like how we folded the flipper in half. We're doing the same thing with the head, and you want to make sure that it's squeezed to where the eyes will be on the sides of the head, because if you were to do it wrong, then it would make the eyeballs be on the top and bottom of the head. So again, just make sure that when you squish it that the eyeballs are on the side. And so I'm just kind of squish it just so I can get my hook in to both sides of the turtle head, and then we're gonna go into the body just like we did with the flippers, and we're gonna pull our hook through all of those stitches, and we're gonna make that single crochet. So we're gonna have 1, and then again we're gonna do that into all the stitches with a single crochet. So it's a little bit tricky to see, but it's not too bad. So here is our 2nd stitch, and then we're going to do our 3rd, and then lastly, to attach the head, we're going to do our 4th stitch. Alright, so now we are just going to do 2 single crochet into the shell by itself, and then we are going to attach our next flipper. So again, we want the curved edge facing away from the head, so we're going to go into the top of the flipper, and we'll just do the 3 single crochet to attach the shell and the flipper together. So we've done that, and then again we're going to do 5 single crochet on the shell by itself. So there we have there 2, 3, 4, and 5, and now we're just going to attach our last flipper, and again we want the curved edges to be facing towards each other. So we are going to go into the 3rd stitch from the top, so just finding that 3rd stitch and then inserting our hook into the flipper and the shell. We're going to attach it with 3 single crochet. So we've done the 1, here is the 2nd, and then our last one, and you should have 2 single crochet left, so I'm just going to do 1 and in the last one. And this is what our turtle is looking like with everything attached. So now for our next row, we're just going to do a single crochet in each stitch all the way around until we reach our stitch marker. And I will meet you back at the end of the row once I have completed that. Alright, so now working on our next row, we are going to do 2 single crochet. So here I've done the 1, and then we're going to do 2, and then we're going to decrease. So we're going to repeat that all the way around. Again, we're going to do 2 single crochet. So 1, 2, and then a decrease, and then I'm going to meet you back once I finished. Alright, so now that I've finished with that row, we are going to work on our next row, which is going to be a single crochet and then a decrease in the next stitch. And then we are just going to do that again all the way around until we reach our stitch marker, and I will be back as soon as I have completed that row. Alright, next I'm just going to go ahead and grab my stuffing and just stuff the body a bit. Alright, now starting in our last row, we are just going to decrease in every single stitch around until we reach our stitch marker. And again, I'm just going to do this, and I will meet you once I have completed this row. And you should have 8 single crochet at the end of this row. Alright, so once I have completed that, I'm just going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch, chain 1, and you're going to want a pretty long tail, and I accidentally did like too much of a long tail, so like in the next clip I went ahead and I actually trimmed it down a little bit. But you want a pretty long tail because we're going to be using it to make the pumpkin ridges. Alright, so once we have that completed, I'm just going to go ahead and go around to sew the opening closed, and I just go into the front stitch of every single stitch all the way around and pull my yarn through. Alright, and I'm just going to pull it tight just to close up that opening, and then we are going to use our tail to make the ridges on the pumpkin. So I'm just going to insert my hook into the middle of the bottom of the pumpkin shell, and then I'm going to come up right there in the middle of where we did our magic ring, and I'm going to pull through. and you want to tug on it, and so you see that there's kind of an indent at the bottom. And I'm just going to guide my yarn to make the ridge in between the head and the flipper, and I'm going to insert my hook into the bottom middle in the same spot, and I'm going to pull through, and you're going to want to tug on it a little bit. As you can see, it's creating that dent. So I'm going to do that in between every single limb. So in between the head and the flipper on both sides, between the 2 side flippers, and then the 2 back flippers. So again, you're just going to insert your hook into the bottom and then come out through the top and pull tight until you see it is giving that dent. And I like to hold it with my thumb and index or middle finger, just so that the ridges don't come loose. And I've gone ahead and done most of them, and I'm just going to show you one more time. As you can see, I just put them in between all of the limbs, and I'm just going to do the last one, which is in between the 2 flippers. And this one kind of was a little bit off to one end, so I just tried to fix it as best as I can by moving the yarn over. So I'm just going to complete the last one, which is pulling through the top, and I'm just going to pull that tight again so that it creates that dent. Alright, so we have our pumpkin completed. So I'm just going to insert my hook back, or my needle back into the pumpkin until we reach the bottom again. And then I'm just gonna grab whatever stitch is closest, and I'm gonna create a knot. And then I'm gonna, as soon as I'm done creating that knot, I'm gonna insert the hook back, or the needle back into the spot that we came out of with the yarn, and I'm gonna go through just any random spot in the body just to secure the yarn. And then I just like to go through it twice just to give me that sense of extra security. And then I'm just going to trim off the excess. So now with the tail that we used for the turtle, as you can see, his head is a little bit kind of floppy. I really don't mind that, but if it really does bug you, you can sew maybe like a row or 2. You can sew his head a little bit upwards, but again, I said it doesn't bother me, so I'm just gonna finish this off. So I'm just gonna grab, a couple of stitches to create the knot. I'm just gonna pull through and then insert my needle into that little loop, pull tight, and then I'm just gonna insert my hook into that same, or my needle into the same spot where my yarn came out of, and then just trim off the excess. So this is what he should look like, and we are almost completed. Now we are going to work on the curly vine, and I just like to leave a little bit of a longer tail. I mean, my tail might be a little bit too long, but I just like to use it for when we're attaching it. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 9. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And into that second chain from the hook, we are going to add 4 single crochet all into that same stitch. And then we're going to add 4 single crochet into each stitch all the way down. And at the end of this row, you should have 32 stitches all together. And I'm just going to chain 1, and then I'm going to trim off the excess and pull my yarn through. And as you can see, it's kind of already naturally curly, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of help it a little bit, just twist it, pull it, and then we're going to attach it. So I just go into the top and I just kind of stick my hook into wherever I can, whatever stitches it'll go through, and I pull one tail through the top piece. So just gonna go ahead and pull that through, and then I just kind of like to go a little bit close to it without being in the same one, and just attaching my, or going through with my hook and pulling through, and I just go ahead and tie a knot with both of the tails. And then just go in and trim off the excess tails, and that is our curly vine. Alright, so now we are going to move on to making the stem, and I'm just going to start off with my magic ring, and I'm going to do 5 single crochet into the magic ring. So we have 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and again just pulling on the tail to close up our magic ring. Alright, so in the next row we're just going to do 5 single crochet again, but this time we are going to go into the back loop. So there goes our front loop, and we're just going to go into our back loop. So the back loop is the one that is going to be farthest from you. So again, we're just going to single crochet in each stitch. So we have our 2, 3, and 4, and then 5. Alright, just pulling my tail, making sure it's nice and secure. Alright, so now in our next row, we're just going to single crochet in each stitch. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alright, and mine was a little bit inside out, so I'm just making it right side out and adding my stitch marker back in so that we can do our last and final round. And in the last one, we're just going to increase in each stitch around. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9 and 10. And then again, just slip stitching into the next stitch, chaining 1, and we are going to leave a little bit of a tail because we are going to sew the stem onto the top of our pumpkin. So just leave enough tail for you to be able to sew that on. Alright, so now we are going to sew it on, and I just like to just place it on top. You can use pins if you want, but I feel like it's very small, very simple. I don't really like to use pins. I just kind of hold it down with my thumb, and I just make sure that the knot that we created with the vine is covered underneath it. So just sewing it on, going around, and once we reach the vine, I just like to go into the vine, the pumpkin, and the stem. So I go through all 3 of them to make it secure, and it kind of like the vine kind of gets in the way a little bit, so I just kind of move it off to the side. And I usually sew it with 2. So I usually get like one side of the vine, and then I get the other side of the vine, and then the pumpkin and the stem. And once you're away from the vine, you can continue to sew it normally. And then I'm just going to make my knot to secure it, and of course putting my needle back into the same spot that my yarn came out of, and going through a random spot in the body. and trimming off the excess. And you're done. This is what your low sew pumpkin turtle should look like. Thank you so much for watching, and like and subscribe and let me know what I should create next.